Welcome to Mr. America, the Bearded Truth, covering political and social issues one liberty at a time, with entertaining insights of current events and important discussions on topics that affect us all, shining the torch of liberty and brightening the future by bringing libertarianism into our everyday life. And now, your host, the friendly neighborhood libertarian, Jason Lyon, Mr. America, the Bearded Truth on Muddied Waters Media.
Hello, everybody. Happy Monday, the best day of the week, in my opinion, because, of course, it means that we're here. And I am so excited to be with you guys tonight. On the heels of over 150 libertarians getting elected across this country, showing that our ideas do win, that love matters, that compassion matters, that empathy matters. I've got an amazing guest lined up to come on and talk with you guys about this. This is, of course, somebody who is behind Spike Cohen every step of the way, orchestrating and just being an absolute monster in the best way possible. Brian Scott Lambrecht, here to talk about campaigning tonight. I am so excited for this conversation. If you guys know Brian Scott Lambrecht at all, and you guys know how amazing he is, he's not one to be too enthusiastic about coming on podcast, but we got him. So I'm excited for that. But before we get into that, I should probably have my notes up to talk to you guys about everything that's going on. So first, I want to thank you guys all for joining in tonight. You guys are all truly amazing for joining me. And while I'm saying thank you to Matt and Spike for giving me a platform to come out here and talk to you guys about everything that's going on in my worldview, and of course to bring great guests on. So thank you, Matt and Spike, for continuing to let me use your platform in this way. This is, of course, a Muddy Waters Media production, which means that you can find us live on all your favorite platforms. You can find us on Facebook, on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. And if you missed us live, it's okay. You can still find us on all your favorite podcast apps. Make sure you guys are subscribing. You guys are hitting notification bells. You guys are getting in here. If you guys are in the comment section, make sure you guys are commenting with one another. Like each other's comments. Comments on comments. Just stack them up and help this algorithm out. Love you guys all for that. And of course, if you guys want to really help out and be a big part of the Muddy Waters team, you can become, I don't know what the title is, you can become a Mudsketeer. We're just going to short it into that. And you can become a Mudsketeer by going to anchor.fm/muddydwaters/subscribe. And for the low price of $10 a month, just a couple lattes a month, you too can be getting in on a countless amount of exclusive content from Spike Cohen speeches across the country, and potentially some good stuff coming from, I believe it was the Muddied America is the title that came through on that. So you guys want to get a part of this. And of course, if you guys want to get over and buy some merch so you guys can pimp out Muddy Waters Media everywhere you go, head on over to muddywatersmedia.com/store. We love you for showing us off and saying that you're a part of one of the best groups out there. Want to give a big shout out to, of course, Kelsey Lyon Designs. If you're getting into campaigning, right? If tonight's discussion with Brian Scott Lambrecht gets you so energized, so ready to go, why don't you go where all the best candidates are going for their designs? That's, of course, KelseyLyonDesigns.com. Kelsey's going to work with you. She's going to give you logos, branding, business cards, publications, websites, whatever you need. She's got it for you. Highly sought after, highly loved, respected, and adored. And I believe that Brian Scott Lambrecht might talk about her a little bit, because the two of them, like, there's love there. I'm not jealous. You're jealous. But you guys can head over to KelseyLyonDesigns.com. Use the code MuddyWatersMedia. You'll get 10% off to help out. So, without further ado, talking about candidates, talking about campaigning, talking about carrying those torches of liberty to make a change in our world, to set people free in our lifetime, is, of course, the always amazing Brian Scott Lambrecht. Brian, how are you tonight?
Jason. Hey man, what's going on?
Oh, not a whole lot, man. I am so excited that you let me twist your arm enough so I can get you on tonight. It's absolute pleasure having you on tonight.
I did make it. I did make you work for it, and you'll take away that pleasure comment soon. But I don't like to do podcasts. I've done Cajun's show. I've done Bootleg show. Now I'm doing Bearded show. I just, for many years in Chicago, I was a musician. Over 15 years, I was a front man. I played guitar and I sang. I played bass and in another friend's band. I've done a lot of studio work. I've traveled in multiple bands over the years. I just don't want to be on a stage anymore, and I don't want to be the person all the attention's focused on. I'd rather just get things done in the background. So that's why I try to avoid the podcasts. It's nothing against anybody in particular.
Yeah,
it's just me discovering my antisocial self.
It's amazing because like you're the man with the brains, you're the man with the plan, you're the man that makes things happen, and it's a very beautiful mug that you have there.
Kelsey has one of these.
Kelsey does have one of those. See, already mentioned it to Kelsey.
It is. It's right here. Look, made from Yeti. I couldn't have done it without you. That's me.
Boom.
That's great. I love this thing. It's my Joe Jorgensen cup. It's really good. It keeps cold drinks cold and warm drinks warm. I drink tea out of it. I bring it with me everywhere. It's actually one of my favorite cups, and it was a personal gift from Joe last year to everybody that was on the hired staff and the team. So it's pretty kick ass. And I'm drinking some hibiscus cherry tea, and the lemon just makes the flavor pop. Just a tad bit of lemon.
Yeah, no, it's very beautiful, and so I think that there's a little bit of a humble brag there that Joe Jorgensen, Spike Cohen had you working with them. You were, I'm going to say it for you. Without Brian Scott Lambrecht, the entire campaign would have been drastically different, in probably the worst way possible.
It would have been different. I'll say it that way.
So now that we have your authority out there, you helped out the national campaign, you helped us garner, I don't recall the vote count, but in a time where partisanship is driving the conversation, you were able to help steer so many people away. You've brought so many libertarians in by being able to orchestrate these people, and so that's why I was like, when I was thinking about those wins across Pennsylvania having 100 and across the rest of the country, we both have friends that have won in so many of these areas. What does Brian Scott Lambrecht think about campaigning? Every time I've spoken with you, you've had such amazing stories of being impactful at every moment. You've given so many tips out there of wear a fucking name tag everywhere you go. I had to get you on.
Get a name tag. Just get a name tag. There's no reason a candidate should never have a name tag. They go to an event, they're walking around. If we're lucky, the libertarian's wearing a suit, because sometimes they'll just show up in a pair of beach shorts and flip-flops. But if you're a real candidate and you got a suit, you're dressed up, you're going, wear a name tag. Even if people aren't going to be reading it, they're going to see that little gold or brass thing over on your lapel or over on your shirt or your jacket. And media people are automatically going to know that's an important person. They may not who you are, but they know you're important. Always get 2 or 3 of them. They're cheap. I don't know why candidates don't do this. They fight me on this. It's ridiculous. Sorry. Anyway.
No, I love this. This is why we have Brian here, because I know like when we go off on tangents, right? We get caught up and we're like, did that come out well? Everyone who's listening to this right now is like, I'm gonna go buy a name tag because I'm important. That's the level we're doing. So I want to start back at square one. When you're out there and you're saying, is this person who's planning on running, is this a good candidate? Is this somebody I want to help out with? I want to work with them. How do you go through that decision-making process?
Well, first of all, I just want to say I wasn't involved in Pennsylvania. They did a brilliant, masterful job of organizing, researching both the candidates and the areas and finding ways to get people placed in that. They did a fantastic, amazing job. The only reason I understand campaigns as well as I do is because I've done so many of them over the last decade in the Libertarian Party, and I've made more mistakes than anybody. Most of the stories I tell are based on mistakes. Like I've got bragging stories where, here's the badass thing Brian did, but it started out with mistakes and errors and stumbling upon things. The first candidates I ever managed were on the statewide ticket in Illinois for Secretary of State, Treasurer, and Attorney General. And they were paper candidates. They just had their names put on the ballot because in Illinois there was a law where you have to fill out the whole slate, right? You can't just run the governor or the Senate. You have to fill out the whole slate: comptroller, treasurer, attorney general, secretary of state, governor, lieutenant governor. And so these three guys were just there as a paper candidate. And I said, well, do you guys want to do anything? Do you want to maybe, you're going to get surveys in the mail, aren't you? Is anybody reaching out to you? Do you want to go to some events? And I took over their campaigns because why the hell not? Yeah. They weren't doing anything. And I said, let's have some fun with this. And the bug bit them a few months into it. And we had a blast. And that's how I started learning and experimenting and having fun on the campaign. So so that's how I first got into campaigns. And then, of course, there's my wife, Claire Ball, who ran for comptroller twice in Illinois. And we can get to that in a little bit because you got some photos you're going to put up later. But when it comes to finding candidates to run for office, I'm at a point right now where when people tell me they want to run for office, I want to just go through a whole list of questions to convince them not to. Yeah. Because I want to make sure that people are running for the right reasons. They're going to do the right thing.
Could you give us some examples of things that really should stand out to you?
See, some of these things are easy to talk about in a fun way, and then other ways are going to be insulting, and I'm probably going to get slammed by people in your chat for this, but I get it is what it is.
Take it.
Like there's certain things, like if you're going to run for office, make sure you can do it. Make sure, first of all, that if you have a significant other, if you're in a relationship with someone, that they're on board. I'm amazed by people that run for office when their significant other is not behind them, or doesn't want anything to do with it, or doesn't want to back them, or just really thinks it's going to hinder on their relationship. You can't do that. Yeah. You got kids, you got a full-time job. I remember during the presidential campaign a couple of years ago, one of the libertarians was running. I couldn't get this candidate to make a phone call to a radio station in Chicago for months. And then I'm like, why can't this candidate do that? Oh, well, they've got this with work and this with their personal life. Why are they running for president? Yeah. If you can't make a phone call to a radio station for months on end, you should not be running for president. You're lying to people when you tell them you want to run for. You can't make the commitment. You're trying to get the nomination, but you can't even call a radio station for a 15-minute segment that I've secured, and you're not going to do the broadcast radio in Chicago. So it's things like that. But the other half of it is just, it's got to be somebody that is like an adult. Like, you need to be competent. That doesn't mean an 18-year-old who still lives with their parents and going to college can't run for library board, but it does mean you probably shouldn't try to run for governor or U.S. Senate. Don't run for office if you're having trouble paying your rent. Just make sure your own life is in order before you put yourself out there, because I see that with a lot of candidates. Yeah. And this is the part where it sounds insulting, because I've seen so many candidates where it's like you're talking about your car getting repossessed and you're running for mayor. Like, I don't know. Yeah. So the first step is, should you be running for office? And we have to start, look, the bar is just, let's set it way down at the floor. Like, the bar is set so low that you're going to trip over it. Okay, keep it at the lowest level and then start working your way up from there. Can you do this? Are you eligible? Are you able? Do you have enough money that you can spend? If you're running for a local office, can you put in $500, $1,000, $1,500 of your own money? If you're running for a congressional seat, can you at least put in a good $2, $3, $4 grand of your own money to run for it? Or can you at least raise that in the first few weeks for seed money? I tell people one of the first things that people should do when they run for office, there's 3 or 4 expenses they should do. One, you should be able to get a website, right? How much does it cost to get a domain name and get space on a server?
It's like $10.
Yeah, right. It's not a lot of money. To get the website designed, if you can't do it yourself, you may have to hire somebody to do it. Usually libertarians can find a friend. We all have friends. KelseyLyonDesigns.com. Yeah, there you go. And we all have friends, or we all have people that will do it at a relatively inexpensive price for you, that will take care of you and get you set up, like Kelsey Lyon. People should also you should be able to get a name tag. $30-$40 to get a name tag. And here's the big one. And this is the one everybody avoids. And everybody watching now is going to nod and agree, and they're going to blow it off like everybody else does. Get a professional headshot. Spend the money. If it costs you 150 or 250 or $300, hire a professional photographer. I don't care if it's indoor. I don't care if it's outdoor. I prefer you wearing a suit and being dressed professional. Get professional photos. Libertarians never do this. They stick with the Facebook page, the image they have. They take something on their phone, or they get one of their friends who's a professional that comes out with their iPhone or a camera. They took photography when they were in college. And I'm not against that. That's wonderful at parades and at events. That stuff goes great on social media, and sometimes the papers will pick it up and they'll share it. But your professional headshot. I remember in 2014 in Illinois, they would have the Republican, the Democrat, and an empty space for the Libertarian, because we either didn't have the professional headshot or the one we had was stupid. Our governor candidate had the dumbest photo. It was awful. It was stupid. It was low quality, low resolution. It wasn't framed right. So when they put it up there, here's the professional Republican, here's the professional Democrat, here's an idiot who's not taking this race seriously. It's ridiculous.
It
and
is.
By 2016 and 2018, it didn't cost a lot of money, but we invested a few $100s in the candidates. And here's the good thing about it. If you're going to run for office, go to the studio. Don't go to a JCPenney and don't hire some boutique, where they're charging you $400 or $500 and they're only going to give you like 2-3 photos. Look online and find professional photographers that work on the site and say, hey, I'll give you a couple $100 for an hour or 2 of your time. Let's take photos. This is what I want, because you can tell them what you want.
Yeah.
And you can outline what you want, and they'll tell you how they'll do it, and they'll give you a price. And tell them, say, I want all the photos. Every photo shoot I've done in the studio. The guy that I go through in Chicago, I still use him. He sends me all of the raw photos. I want all the mistakes, all the edits, all the goofball photos. He takes everything. I will dig through them myself. And it takes hours, it takes days to like narrow down a couple hundred photos down to the 4 or 5 that I want. And I'll have like 15 or so that are good for memes. They're good for promos. I'll have 3 or 4. One's for the business card. One's for, Facebook. One's for Twitter. One is going to be for the palm cards. But there's always going to be the one main one. And that may be the Facebook one. It may be the whatever it is. It's the one that goes in all the press releases. It's the one when the ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox affiliates in your city reach out and say, hey, can I get a professional headshot for your candidates? That's the one you want to send them, because that's the one they're going to put on the TV. They're not going to put some blurry image of you at a barbecue or something. You want to give them something professional. And I know so many candidates that they won't do it. They won't spend $200, $300 and get a professional photo. They'll get a friend, they'll have somebody go out and do it, and then they think it looks great. And it's like, have you not taken it and looking at what your opponent's done? Put the photos side by side on your computer and look at them. Because when the news networks do it, when the newspapers do it, when you're looking at a website that's published it and it's got your surveys, it's got all 3 of your pictures, then you can tell that you look like shit.
And it's too late to stop it. No.
Yeah, and it's your fault. So I don't know why candidates do this. And they won't do it because they want to fight. I don't know, man. I have no idea what it is.
They want to pinch those pennies, I think, because we know that when it comes to at least libertarian candidates, a lot of people have been struggling with getting that money. And that's why, you started off and you said, are you able to put up your own money? Are you able to fundraise? Those are very important questions. And if you have a candidate that's not able to fundraise, you can find somebody like Brian Scott Lambrecht who will come in and teach you how to do this, be able to fundraise for everything. Because I believe that you were one of the other stories that you had was for your state's LP. You were like, how much money do you guys want? I can bring it to you. You know more than just campaigning.
Well, I've done all of it. I'm not the world's greatest fundraiser. I know what needs to be done. Fundraising, half of the game is contacts. Mm-hmm. You have to have certain contacts if you want to bring in big money. But I've coached people on fundraising. There have been instances where we had a guy named Josh Flynn in Illinois. And Josh Flynn lived in Chicago. And he is the only libertarian ever. Actually, no, Gary Johnson did get the endorsement from the Chicago Tribune in 2016, and that was huge because they were very much against Trump that year. But other than Gary Johnson, he's the only libertarian to ever get an endorsement from the Tribune because he was such a damn good candidate. I love him. I miss him. We lost him earlier this year. He had a heart condition. He's no longer with us. But a few weeks before the election, he called me up and he says, Brian, I need help. I know you don't have money, but I know you got in contacts. Can you help me? I need to get $1,200 and I need it like in the next 2 to 3 days because I got to order some more literature because he had dozens of people visiting thousands of homes and there was a whole other area left that he needed. And he needed to get a couple hundred yard signs, which was the bulk of the cost. And then it was only a few $100 to get the rest of the literature that he needed. And I went on my phone and I made about a dozen phone calls and I got him $1,500. There was even a guy that said, oh, I'll give him a couple $100. Where does he live? And I said, he lives about 20 minutes from you, and says, does he want to come by my house? If he comes by my house, I'll give him $150. I called him. I said, can you go and visit this person? And he said, yeah, I'll head over there right now. Give me his address, Brian. I gave him his address right down North Avenue, Route 64 in Chicago, wound up in Melrose Park. Those of you in Illinois know who I'm talking about. And he went up to his door and the guy that was there was so impressed. I think he gave him $200. He wrote him a bigger check just because he was impressed that he showed up so fast and was going to put that money to use. It's having the courage to ask people. But the other thing is you have to let them know what it's for. I was just talking to a candidate about this the other day in Tennessee. You can't just ask for money. Say, I need money for my campaign, or I need to get literature and signs and t-shirts. You need to itemize what it is. It's amazing if you reach out to people and say, hey, I'm trying to get this specific thing by this specific day. This is going to cost me $1,200. I need $400 so I can get this. And we got to send a person down here. We need about $150 in gas and food to get us through the weekend. Now, where can we get this from? Let's make some phone calls. And a person will just step right up. Here's $150. You're covered for the weekend. Somebody else who's retired, they've got more money saved away. $400. I'm going to cover the cost to have the booth. Thank you, Mark Agnini in Lake County. I miss you too, Mark. The chapter, they couldn't afford to get the booth there. And he said, well, damn it, if it's only a matter of $600. And he got it. And we can fundraise for that. But you can't just say, you can't just set up a GoFundMe page and say $20,000, help me break the system. Because that doesn't do, and you've got $100 raised and it's been 3 weeks. No, you have to make phone calls. You have to call people. You have to send out handwritten letters. Every campaign I've worked on as a campaign manager, and I've done this with my candidates. My wife is the best one that does it because she's my wife. She can't get away from me. Claire Ball for Illinois Top 2016, 2018. But I don't even have them here. I'd show you. I printed up these thank you cards. It's got the big a porcupine in it with a bubble that just says thank you. And you open it and it's blank on the inside. And you write a handwritten note thanking people. Thank you for your donation. Thank you for coming out to my event. Thank you for supporting me. Thank you for anything you want. During campaigns, I would send that out to anybody that did work for us or helped us out. People would turn in petitions. People would help us defend signatures at the State Board of Elections. And then after the election, I didn't do it before, after the election, I would send out thank you cards to every journalist that covered us, every group and organization that invited our candidates out, every editorialist that said something nice about us, or the editorialist that invited our candidates and said, yes, you can take part in the endorsement process that we have. Everybody got thank you cards.
You started building those relationships with all these people, because now when Brian Scott Lambrecht comes through with a different candidate, it's a very, very tart drink you have there.
I got good. I get this tea imported. It's really good stuff.
But that's not just like a one-off thing, right? This is something that each and every one of us should be taking up, right? When we have a special guest. Spike Cohen just went on Eric Brakey's show, and Eric Brakey sent him a handwritten note, and Spike was like, well, now I feel guilted because I don't do that. I've got a lot of guests I have to go back and appreciate. Those things mean so much.
It's harder on podcasts. And you're right. There was a part of me that thought Spike should be sending out thank you notes to some of these people. And we have addresses for all of them. They're college professors. We have a thing. We could send that out. That kind of the problem is Spike is so busy. Getting him to sit write out thank you. I could give you. I carry these little notebooks around, right? And these are loaded with pages of stuff that Spike needs to get done. And I cross them out. You can see lines in there. Once he gets it done, I'm pretty sure at this point he hates seeing me walk up to him. Like, I'll be at an event and like, Spike, look at all the stuff we got to do. And I'm pretty sure he's sick of it at this point.
Is brushing his teeth on that list?
No. No.
Are we
He's
sure
gonna
that
take-
Spike Owen is brushing his teeth?
I don't validate this, so anything is possible. But you can.
There we go.
You can
One dirty rumor.
You can ask it as Q&A. But I don't. But Spike has so many things to do. That getting him to write handwritten notes. Spike did a podcast that I booked for him during the campaign last year, and that guy sent a thank you note to me for booking it and making it happen. And it surprised the hell out of me. He asked for my address. He's like, "Oh, I want to send you something." And I'm like, "Okay, he's going to send me something for Spike to have or whatever." And it was a thank you note. And I was like, "Dude, that is some classy shit."
Yeah.
My wife Claire, and I should talk about Claire for a minute. My wife Claire Ball ran for comptroller twice in Illinois. Now, normally it's every 4 years, but after 2014, Judy Bartopinka passed away about 3 weeks after she won re-election. And therefore, there was a Republican governor, but the rest of the state's controlled by Democrats. So the compromise they came up with is the governor was able to appoint somebody he wanted in that position for 2 years. And then at the presidential election, they would have a special election for the comptroller. And that's when the Democrat could come in and win. And right after Judy Bartopinka died, and they were discussing this and deciding that this was going to be the way going forward, I said, Claire has a CPA and she had a master. Actually, she didn't have the CPA yet. She was getting it. She had her master's degree in accounting and finance, and she was most of the way towards getting her CPA. And I said, if you want to do this, we can start your campaign now, run for comptroller for 2 years, and as soon as it's over in 2016, just keep riding it to 2018. So we're going to run a 4-year campaign with 2 elections. And she wasn't sure if she wanted to do it, so we actually ran a small campaign for DuPage Community College Board, because that was in the following April, and she wanted to see if she could do it. Do you mind if I tell some of these stories? Do you care?
No, not. Go for it. I love Brian's stories.
So Claire was one of 12 people running for 3 seats at DuPage County Board. The reason why is this race was very heated. The president at the college was some classic villainy. The school spent like $60,000 or $80,000 so he could fly to Africa and shoot an elephant. They were literally, the board and the president were literally wining and dining on the taxpayer dollar at the college because they opened up a culinary school that had a fancy restaurant, and they were writing off $100 bottles of wine. The receipts were all there. They had it. So it became a national issue. So every career Republican and Democrat wanted to get in on this. And currently the board had been run by Democrats. So now it's the Republicans to go in there and thrash them and, And there were 12 people competing for those 3 seats, and my wife was one of them. And I remember there was a debate that they had at the college. All 12 of them lined up on the thing. It was a 2-hour debate with a small break in the middle. And they came up with the rule, no applause, right? You can applaud at the beginning when they make their announcement, and then no applause because you have to save time. You can't applause after every person answers. There's 12 people. There's a limited amount of time. They've only got so much time to do it, right? And somebody asked a question, said, 60 seconds. I know that this is a nonpartisan race, but I want to know, what political party do you affiliate with? And Claire was 10th in line out of the 12. They were going one by one, 60 seconds. And every candidate danced around it. They were bullshitting. Well, I mean, I might be registered as a Democrat, but I have Republican friends. I mean, I have run as a Republican before, but this is nonpartisan. It really doesn't mean anything. And they would dance around this until they got that dinger, that 1 minute, 60-second mark to stop. They get up to Claire. And I'll never forget, she leans into the microphone and says, I am a libertarian. I'm about as outsider as you can get. Because everybody was trying to paint themselves as an outsider, an independent. I am a libertarian. I'm about as outsider as you can get. And she leans back. Silence. People start to laugh. And then they start to cheer, and the whole room erupts in screaming and applause because she gave them a short 10-second answer that was to the point, and it was fucking honest.
Nailed it.
And I was so proud of her. And then when she came down, there were all these kids that wanted to hang out with her and talk to her, get a photo with her, because she was also the youngest person running. And this is a community college. She had actually said, I'm the only person on this board who's actually been in a community college in the last 10 years. So that connected with a lot of the kids, whether they vote or not, who knows. Claire didn't end up winning, but she did so well that at the end of the race, when she lost, the three Republicans spent $150,000 for a race that doesn't pay anything. But one of them ended up getting appointed to fill a vacant seat in the state house. So she got her money's worth out of it. And they appointed Claire to the budget committee, which she sat on for 2 years. And then she eventually stepped down because the second comptroller campaign started to get really busy and really heated. And we had to get involved in that. But, and I learned a lot of things on that campaign, going from local to statewide. Now, I'm getting off track here now, because I know you want to talk about specific campaigns, but you said you like hearing stories.
No, I love stories.
Things like that happen.
I have one proud story of you that I want to share with everybody. So I had the pleasure of having Brian Scott Lambrecht come over to my house for the South Carolina Libertarian Party convention 3 weeks ago ish.
Yeah.
So I had to go and pick up the wonderful Cajun and his wife from the airport, but that meant that the smoker was going to be left unattended. And Brian Scott Lambrecht, who is a phenomenal cook, wanted to try his hand. First time at smoking, I think it was 8 pounds of pulled pork. And I don't think that there was
I've never used a smoker before. I was terrified.
He was terrified. He was texting me the whole time. I'm driving down to Atlanta, and he's messaging me. That was by far the best pulled pork I've ever had. So Brian Scott Lambrecht, there is no limits to what he can do. That's why I love having you on tonight. But I do want to move back over to talk about the candidates and everything else. Kelsey said that you saved her life that weekend as well.
She was under a lot of pressure, and I wanted to help her any chance I could. She had this quote that she kept saying. She one time she yelled at me. I was in the car driving by, and she was on the street walking from the restaurant back to the convention. And you go, Brian, I need you. And it's like, I mean, having a beautiful woman yelled at any time is always a great thing to hear. But like, it happened a lot. And it was always, Brian, I need you. And I mean, I'm a sucker for a damsel in distress. Everybody can attest to this. But like, I run up, and it's like, spray paint this, go downstairs and mess with the printer in the hotel that. I need you to run over here and find this. Can we find one of those? Can you find this person? And I don't mind doing that because I had nothing else to do at the convention. And I like working, I like working conventions. I've done plenty of conventions. So I can't just sit and relax and do nothing. I like to be active and running around. So it was a lot of fun. It was just the way she kept yelling it at me was hilarious. And I'm like, yeah, this will get me in trouble.
Yeah, no, it was such a good weekend. I'm so glad that you were able to come down and finally get to meet you in person.
Meeting you guys was wonderful. And South Carolina, Greenville, beautiful town, beautiful city. And I love the mountains on that side. It was so wonderful. I've never been on that side of the mountains there over in that area.
Yeah, you're always welcome to come back. Next time you have to watch the crayons. Yes, next time you have a task of watching the crayons. I don't know if you saw all of that, but Matt Wright has stolen my daughter's crayons, and we will not forget. But never forget. But I do want to jump back into the campaign thing, because that's clearly what everyone wants to hear about, not how amazing that pulled pork was. So beautifully done. Bone pulled right out. It was amazing. But so with campaigning, right? So now we know the very, very basics of, hey, look, make sure that you're eligible and available to run. Make sure that you're able to get some money, throw some money in for it. Make sure you're wearing a damn name tag. Wear a name tag. What else? What else is there anything else that really stands out for you that's like, this is a no-go test on a candidate?
If you're gonna run for office, some candidates want to go all out. They make all these promises, all these things they're going to do. I hear it all the time where they're going to make all these promises. But there's some bare minimums that need to be met. If you're going to run for office, respond to the media calls that come your way and return. Like, even if you're just a paper candidate, respond to the media calls and excuse me. return all of the surveys that you get. Hold on 1 second.
No problem.
You're both getting over being sick.
Yeah.
I need.
No, you're fine. And while you're taking your drugs, right in front of everybody, I think it's also important to know what is the role of what office you're running for. I've seen many candidates running for office that don't even know what they're running for, and so when they get asked that question on a debate stage, or they get asked that question by people who are interested, they just say, well, I'm running for SC House, and what I'm doing is I want to end the war on terror in Afghanistan, in Iraq. I've seen this, that candidates will come out there and advocate, I want to stop the war on terror. And by doing so, I'm going to do this from a South Carolina in-state congressional seat. And it's just like, you have to understand the role. You have to understand the seat that you're running for and what role that takes.
That's not that difficult to do, especially if you're running for local office. If you're running for city council, know what the issues are in the town. They're not worried about trade with China.
No.
They're not going to want to hear your damn views on abortion. Maybe when Julie Fox ran in Illinois for West Dundee City Council, one of the issues that year was, for some stupid reason, well, no, not once. We know exactly what the reason was. The city had banned people from using their properties as an Airbnb. And the only reason they do this is because the hotels in the area, they want to cut down the business. They talk to the people. Oh, I want to protect the hotels that are already there. So we're going to make that happen. And that was a local issue that was upsetting a lot of people that she ran on. Maybe there's an issue with the sewer system. Maybe that's the county that does it. Who knows what it is? Maybe you've got issues with the school board, but you need to know what the issues are. You can't just run for school board and say, I want to stop Common Core. I've seen that happen. What the hell is Common Core doing in your area that you want to stop, and how do you propose to stop it? Because one person on a board can't do that.
Yeah.
What is it that you're going to do? Running for a bigger office like state office, does your state have a pension crisis? Does every state is pretty much, most states are in debt. But you have to know what those issues are, and you have to know how to talk about it.
Yes.
You can't, because otherwise, when you get on TV, when you get in an interview, they will not hesitate to tell you how bad you are. I have an article, I could bring it up now. All of you people could do this. It's from the Chicago Tribune in 2014, where I talked to, she's the editor-in-chief of the Chicago Tribune, I think so, or the lead editor. I'd love to find her name. Her name is Kristen McQuarrie. She's still there. I love her. I get along with her. I've known her for several years there at the Tribune. And she's the one, I apologize, by the way, for my throat. I'm getting over being sick last week.
I'm on the N-word, you're on the outward, so we're in the same boat.
Yeah, it's bad. I drank so much vegetables and juices and anti-inflammatory stuff to make it go away, and I did kill it quickly, but I still got this lingering throat, so I apologize for that. And I'm getting distracted here on my end. She wrote let me back up a little bit. I talked to her and said, hey, I'd like to bring our candidates in for you to talk to them. And I brought in our governor candidate because I had faith in him. I had never been involved in a campaign before, and I brought him in there. Doesn't matter who he is. He sounded like an idiot. He knew nothing about anything he's talking about. Someone says, how are you going to handle the gun crime here? We got a gun problem in Chicago. What's the thing? Now you bring Spike. Spike's going to say, oh, well, that's easy. It's the drug war. The drug war. And we have these gangs that are fighting each other. And therefore, that's what's going to happen over here. You know, we, as most libertarians, we don't talk about this. What you can't do is just say the Second Amendment says, you know, shall not infringe. That's not an argument. That's not a case.
You'll rile up a base that already agrees with you, but you're not selling it to anyone. You're not changing anyone's minds.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're not proposing a solution. You're not giving them an answer to the problem they have. You can say, hey, your solution of making guns illegal in Chicago is making it worse, and you make that case. But this candidate was awful, didn't know anything he was talking about. And I remember sitting in there thinking this is awesome. We got a seat at the table. This is an endorsement interview. We're going to do good. And one guy stood up like 10 minutes into it and walked out. I didn't find out until later that he was the owner of the Tribune. He was so embarrassed at this awful situation. I was humiliated. I went into her office afterwards with my hat in my hand, the black gambler that I was wearing when I was in South Carolina, holding it in my hand. And she's like, well, Brian, I'll get back to you and I'll let you know how the process goes and we'll let you know who we end up endorsing. And I'm like, Kristen, that was awful. That was bad. Please let me bring in our other candidates. Please talk to the other ones. Please talk to Julie Fox, our comptroller candidate. Julie was a CPA and an accountant. She was brilliant. This is her third time running for it. And she liked Julie and wrote favorably about her. But if you look up the article, the title literally says, do not vote for the libertarian candidate for governor. You're looking it up right now.
Yep.
Don't mention his name because he'll love it. But she ripped him to pieces. It was humiliating. And then libertarians around the state are like, this is awful. Look at how they're treating us. Look at how they da-da-da-da. And I'm sitting there like, I was in the fucking room. I was in the goddamn room. I watched the owner of the newspaper walk out. Everybody's defending the idiot. We went in there unprepared. And this guy went in there and made us look like an utter fool in front of the 9th largest newspaper in the world.
Oof.
And that was a big lesson for me in 2014. I said, I'm never letting that happen again. I'm never letting that happen again. And I managed to get Clare invited in 2016. They were also very impressed with Gary Johnson for president, which helped us a lot. Yep. That's why when people want to complain about Gary Johnson, the people that complain about Gary Johnson, I don't have time for them. You can criticize his campaign, but overall he was fantastic and he did wonderful things for us. He got 7, 8, or 9 newspaper endorsements around the country.
Yeah, no, he got a lot of support. He was bringing people over. He was changing hearts and minds. I just disagreed with him on a couple policy points, but that's fine. That's politics. Yeah.
Yeah. He helped us with that. But Clare was able to get into the Tribune and the Sun-Times and other ones, and I had to say, look at it, because it was 2016. It was the presidential year, so the only people on the ballot were president and vice president, Senate, and then that little comptroller seat. And because of that year, Clare actually holds the records for the most votes any libertarians ever had in Illinois history, because it was a big turnout year because it was a presidential election. So yay, Clare. But she helped set the tone that, hey, she's a CPA. I'll never forget, she earned her CPA that summer, and her dad sent her a coffee mug. And it said, because I'm the CPA, that's why. And she brought it with her to the Tribune and the Sun-Times.
Oh, man.
There was an issue at the Sun-Times where she had found something in the books. The Republican that had been appointed there had lied about something. She said, there was 4.1. She said that there's no money to take care of the disabled or any of the people that had money owed to them that were in the state that needed to be taken care of. But somehow she was able to find $4.1 million in bonuses to go out to IDOT workers. And Clare brought this up. And the Democrat jumped all over it, and the newspapers jumped all over it, and it got repeated all around the rest of the state of Illinois. You know what all the newspapers said? They didn't say libertarian Clare Ball brought up this issue. They said it was brought up at the Chicago Sun-Times that this happened, and the Republican backed off, and the Democrat said this. We still have to fight that fight, but I got us in the door because I built relationships with these people. I'll tell you another little story. It's in 2018, I was able to get all 6 of our candidates, and you've seen photos of them. Do you want to bring some of those photos up, by the way?
Yeah, which ones do you want? I've got them in reverse order.
Bring them up one by one, and I'll just talk about them and tell you when to flip.
Sure.
You guys are getting sick of looking at my face. Let's look at some sexy people.
Here's the first one. You can see it on your Zoom screen.
I see it. That's my wife, Clare. On the right, and Clare MacMillan. Look at that photo. Look at how well lit that is. That was done in a studio. We paid $300 and they each got their own headshots with this background, and they got one with a white background so they could be cut out, edited, and used in memes and everything. We got so much out of those photos. Claire still uses them to this day. And that's the thing I tell a lot of people. When you spend money on a professional headshot, it's going to last you years. You can probably get 10 years out of that photo. And why not? When you're getting older, use the younger photo that you got when it was professionally taken. You're going to get your money's worth out of that photo. But that was Claire and Kent, and that was 2016, the first time that she ran, and Kent was and by the way, they did not let Kent go in and debate. I think it was Dick Durbin. They did not let him go into that debate. I was very upset about that, but keep going.
Dick Durbin needs to get debated against.
And there's one of Claire's headshots. We used that. I tried going the cheap route. Let's find a friend. Let me get over on this side. Let's see if we can find a friend that can make, can do some professional photos for us. And the photos for her DuPage County board race were not what I wanted compared to what other professionals had. This photo is what we got, and this is what we used for the years going on. What else do we have?
Doop, doop. That beautiful couple.
Well, let's talk about this. This is an ad. This was a meme. Actually, it was the header for an event. And this is getting a little off subject, but we can talk about it. Claire, well, let me back up a little bit. In 2018, I wanted to do something different throughout the state of Illinois. And I wanted to do it again next year, but people are grumpy and weird and dumb. So I don't think it's going to happen, but I wanted to visit as many counties as possible and try to get as much media attention as I could in all the local towns and the local county papers, right? So what you're looking at is a map of Illinois. Every third Saturday, every 3 or 4 weeks, we would have a Saturday where we would leave at like 5:30, 6 in the morning and take county roads and have meet and greets in small coffee shops. I called it a coffee shop tour. Small coffee shops all throughout a part of Illinois. There'd be the northern tour. This looks like the western tour. There was a couple tours down the center. There was an eastern tour. Never got to do southern part. But Claire visited 2/3 of the counties and campaigned in 2/3 of the counties throughout Illinois.
That's impressive.
This was just one of them. And we would get so much media in every little area. We'd show up at the gazebo. She'd only be there for 45 minutes. We would live stream it, every single one. People would see Claire in their towns. People would come out, hey, can I get a couple yard signs? And I didn't just have Claire's. I had Cass Jackson. I had Bubba Harsey for Attorney General. I had Mike Lahaney for treasurer. We had everybody's yard signs with us, so libertarians could come by, meet us, pick up stuff, pick up some of our material to go, neighborhood walking. And they loved that libertarians were coming to their area, even if they had to drive an hour to see a libertarian candidate. They otherwise might have never seen or met one before. These tours were so fantastic and so fun and so simple. A little bit of work to plan them, but not impossible by any means. Anyway, that was what that one was for. I want to get to the fun photos. This is Mike Lahaney. He lives in Tennessee with me here now. He was our finance candidate. Now look at this photo for a second. You see how it's the one with Claire and Kent earlier? That was bright. Yeah. It was shiny. It was happy.
I feel like he's well dressed for a senior prom or yes. Senior high school picture.
Well, what I wanted is this. Okay, I'm going to tell you the plan I had because these photos are coming up. Mike was our candidate for treasurer in 2018. I reached out to my guy, my photographer, and said, I don't want to do smiley, happy photos with the flag behind us anymore. I said, I want our candidates to look like badasses. I want to do a photo shoot with all 6 of our candidates lined up as if they are part of a new apocalyptic show on Netflix.
Ooh.
And I want them to look serious and be taken serious. Do you see the photos I'm talking about?
Yeah, no, I've had to look at all of them. So I know.
Yeah. Let's skip ahead and see if we can find it.
Like that one? Or like that one?
There.
Is that the one you
just had it up. Keep it right there. Look at that photo, people. That was taken in a studio. You've got amazing. Steve Duttner, Bubba Harsey, you've got Stange Mohip, Cash Jackson, Claire Ball, Mike Lahaney in there. That was a badass photo shoot. $800 for that day, but we walked out with hundreds of photos, and I got photos of all of them individually. I got them in groups, right? So I was able to get the governor and the lieutenant governor together. We did some photos with Clare and Mike, because Clare was the comptroller candidate, Mike was the treasurer candidate, so they're kind of the finance people. You know, we would shoot, and then we did, you know, Clare was also the most popular candidate in the state because she had run before, and she was also the most qualified one, being the CPA. Her slogan, the statement she would always say is, the office of comptroller in Illinois has not been held by an accountant in over 200 years.
Wow.
I'm the only CPA running. I have a master's degree in accounting and finance. If this was Google or Amazon hiring, the Republican and Democrat wouldn't even get a call back for a second interview. Like,
yeah.
So we made sure that they all had different groupings of photos with them together. But this photo, I wanted them to look intimidating. I don't want them to look smiling and happy. I said, well, we'll get happy photos, but I wanted this. Now, something else, if you notice, do you notice anything else about them that kind of ties them all together and makes them libertarian?
The touch of gold on all of them is phenomenal.
Thank you. They all have gold.
That's phenomenal.
Cash has the gold tie. I think is Sanj. I can't see very well. The Sanj has the gold vest. Bubba has a gold shirt. Steve has, one of them was going to wear gold suspenders. It didn't happen. Claire has a gold neckerchief. Steve complained or something. And Mike's got the little pocket square. They all have a touch of gold on it. Thank you, Jason.
It's beautiful. I love that the subtle but profound and bold, the boldness of the gold.
I love it, and I'm glad you recognized it because it's beautiful. And some of the photos are a little happier. You can jump around to some of the other ones you got. See, so that one, they're having a little bit of fun. He's got some headphones on. I think the slogan at the top was, Illinois is calling for help. Libertarians are listening. Or we hear, Illinois is in trouble. We hear you. I can't remember what it was. We use it for a couple things, but that one was a great one. And by the way, that last photo that you had up there, the scary one that you had, not that one, that one.
There we go.
That one. By the way, if I can just complain a little bit, because I really hate National LP. That's I could go off on that for an hour. I think it's garbage.
I'm sure we all could.
Yeah. I'm glad they help with ballot access, and that's about it. And by the way, I thank you for helping with ballot access. But otherwise, everything else in the LP can just go away. This photo got published in the Chicago Sun-Times, in the Chicago Tribune, in the Daily Herald, and in other papers around the state, and other libertarians around the country shared it. You know who didn't print it and didn't put it on their media? National LP. Never shared it on their Facebook page, never tweeted it out, and they wouldn't print it in their damn paper. And
Brutal.
It's like, I'm sorry, but I rarely see other candidates look this fucking good.
No,
and
the artisticness of this thing just stands out to where, like, if I saw that on a newspaper, if I saw that on a billboard, if I saw that anywhere in life, I'd be like, that's probably a badass action movie. That's probably like something out there that I'm already interested in. You don't need words there. I'm interested in what's going on there. It's phenomenal.
Do you see the photo where they're kind of goofing off and it says Chicago Sun-Times at the top? There you go. Now this one is they're having a little bit of fun. Oh no, this is a more serious one. This is a serious one as well. This is the one where they're thanking the Chicago Sun. Is there one where Cash is playing an invisible guitar or no? Maybe not. I might have not sent you that one. No.
No.
Okay, never. I didn't send it to you. But the word is out, and we were goofing off at a photo shoot, and I know they look like a boy couple band. I don't know. That was Cash and Sanj. They were governor and lieutenant governor, and that's a fantastic photo.
Were they the backup singers for Spike's mixtape?
They could be. They could be the ones that helped produce it from the back. I don't know.
Oh, from the back.
They could be like Daft Punk, where you never know it's them, but yeah. So, but get back to the one for Chicago Tribune. That one. So we were proud to put this one out. There's another one that was where they're like goofing off and pretending to play air guitars. But it was basically thank you, Chicago Tribune, for your consideration for endorsement. We use these around newspapers, also around the state, because we wanted to thank them and let them know and tag them in things. Yes, the word is out this week and it is now official. The Chicago Sun-Times will be including the entire libertarian slate of candidates in their endorsement interview process. We wanted to celebrate that because we had never had the whole slate brought in before. Is it going to happen this year? I don't know. I'm not in Illinois. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm not even sure if all the newspapers are going to reach out to us.
Now, in order to get this, there was something that you discussed at the SCLP convention, which if you guys in the audience didn't see that, we still have it on Muddy Waters Media. But you were talking about a story about being able to get in with the different newspapers and everything else. Do you remember the story? Because I know you share a lot of different stories. Okay, I want to hear this.
Okay, so I told that story really, really quick. I'll try to see if I can I'm going to get the names wrong. What I was trying to explain, and that was a really short, we were only up there for like an hour. It was a short segment in South Carolina. There's a lot of things that people are teaching right now, how to run campaigns, lots of campaign training. And it's not bad. It's all good stuff. A lot of it is good. A lot of it is basic training stuff for campaigns and everything. But a lot of the stuff that I've seen does not apply in every situation. I had somebody for a campaign in Illinois. Well, I already know what the win number is. And this is why we're on top of our game. Brian, do you know what so-and-so's win number is? And I'm like, well, no, there's no point in learning the win number. Your race is too large of a thing where it's not going to matter. And besides, you don't even know who's all on the ballot. Well, we know the win number now. It's like, no, you don't. Is there a Green Party candidate going to be on the ballot? That completely changes your win number. Is there going to be another third party person? The Willie Wilson party ran last time. We had 5 people running for Senate. Or did we have 6? 2, 3, we had 5 people, I think. There might have been 6, 5 that ran for Senate last time. For governor, in 2014, we had 3 candidates. In 2018, we had 4, which killed us because we probably could have won our 5% to get ballot access if the Democrats didn't pay a shill to go up there called the Conservative Party. The point is, you're telling me 6 months in advance, you know your win number. You don't even know who's on the ballot yet. And you're not going to know for another 5-6 months. You have no idea what your win number is. Let's take a look at what your actual strategy is for raising money and building your infrastructure and building your campaign team instead of bragging about numbers and facts that you got from a print-up sheet from National. Just things like that don't matter. It matters, knowing your win number when you're running for library board or something, or you're running for city council or for county board. Even if you're running for state rep, of course that comes in handy. But again, until you know who's on the ballot and who's turned in petitions, that number is going to change. It's going to fluctuate. And there's a lot of arrogance that comes along with things like that. There's a lot of stuff they don't teach you. So the story you want to know is this. And this is why it relates to it about things they don't teach you. In 2018, we got our governor candidate, Cash Jackson, invited to a network television broadcast debate. That doesn't happen around the country. Donald Rainwater did it in 2020 in Indiana, and it was huge when he got to debate his opponents. We did that in 2018 with Cash against Bruce Rauner and J.B. Pritzker, and J.B. Pritzker is the current governor. And we've never had that before in Illinois, and I don't think it's happened much around the country where a governor on a network station, and this was in Chicago, got to debate live. We were very proud of this. I got some stories I could tell about this too. But we were very proud that Cash got in there. He prepared, he planned. We beat the hell out of him for, weeks leading up to it. And we didn't even get confirmed he was going to be in it until the week before, because they always cut us out of that shit. But we were in it, and he did a great job. Again, the rule, you people can look this up. The rule is we're only here on live television for an hour. Nobody in the audience cheer or applaud. Let's just focus on what we have to focus on so we can get through it quickly. Cash got the audience to break 3 times. He got 3 cheers and laughs and applause out of the crowd. He did such a good job. The Republican and Democrat were so petty the way they kept attacking each other with valid points, but it was just petty in the way they were doing it. And they kept repeating the same points over and over because they couldn't make a new argument. I remember the person asking a question about, what do you think about Russian influence in our elections? And the Republican gives the Republican spin, the Democrat gives the Democrat spin, and Cash says, why are we talking about this? We have people who can't put gas in their tanks. They can't pay their bills. And the crowd erupted with cheering. Like, Cash did so well at this. So of course they banned him from the next debate, from the second and third one. The second debate we protested outside of that was also in Chicago. Didn't get us anywhere, but we did our best. Now, the third debate, they were going to have that in the central part of Illinois, the western part, actually, in a town called Quincy. Quincy is a very small town. It's on the Mississippi River, and it's not super far south, but it is far west, where it's almost a good 5-hour drive. It's about a 5-hour drive to get over there from Chicago to get to Quincy. It's a trip. And Cash had nothing going on that week. He was like, Brian, I'm going to Quincy. I'm going to Quincy. I'm mad as hell. I'm going to protest that station. Rah, 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 rah. And I'm like, all right, just fucking go get down there. There was a volunteer that loved him, that put him up for the night, put him up for a few nights. And he went and stayed down there for about 4 days. So I'm like, all right, I called the station. I said, Cash Jackson's going to be there. You need to put Cash. And the producer is telling me, no, I can't put him on. There's nothing I can do about it. And by the way, so everybody paying attention, he's right. The producer can't do anything about it. The Democrat, J.B. Pritzker, the billionaire, who bought his way into the governorship in Illinois, he was refusing to do any more debates with Rauner and refused to actually do them with the Libertarian. So, if the billionaire says, I won't show up to your debate if there's a third person there, what are you going to do? So you have to do what he says. Otherwise, you don't have a debate. And or they could always do something awesome like what they did down in Arkansas with, what's his name? Ricky Harrington?
Yes, Ricky Harrington.
Harrington Jr. I'm so glad they did that. But I knew the producer. It wasn't this producer's choice. He was up, he was under the gun in this situation. So I'm like, all right, I let him off easy. And I'm like, I'm going to book Cash for some other media while he's down there. So I got Cash on 3 radio stations and 2 newspapers. I got him on, the Quincy Gazette, the Quincy Herald, WPJQ, WXYZ, whatever. I got him on the 3 radio stations. And then the other TV network booked him to come in the morning and do like a 20-minute segment with them. And there was only 2 TV networks in town. There was like a CBS and an ABC affiliate. And I can't remember which one was the jerk one, so I'm going to refrain from taking a guess and getting it wrong. But I booked him on the other station. So I called this producer back and I said, hey, just so you know, Cash is in town and you have to let us in the debate. He's a third guy on the ballot. You need to be, he's on there. This isn't up for debate. He's definitely on the ballot. There's no challenge anymore. You have to do this. And he says, I can't. And I said, okay, I just want to let you know that Cash is going to be doing an interview on WJPZ, WXYZ, WABC, the Quincy Herald, the Quincy Gazette, and the other TV network in town that's your rival. And I'm sorry, man, but his number one complaint on all of those interviews over the next 2 days is how you guys are screwing him over. You're not letting him in there. You guys don't respect the Constitution. You don't respect democracy. You don't respect, ballot access laws in this state. And he goes, let me call you back. He calls me back 30 minutes later and says, I can't get Cash in the debate, but we'll give him an entire 30-minute interview private for himself the day before. Will you take that? And I said, yes, that makes us happy. And you know what? When he does, because it was already, that day, I said, when he goes on the radio today and does the other newspaper and radio interviews tomorrow, we're going to promote his appearance on your station. We're going to tell him that we're going to be there and let him know so people tune in so they can watch and hear Cash and answer all the questions you guys have for him. Where do you get that tactic from? You just have to be a dick. You just have to be a jerk.
It works.
It doesn't always work, but you got to try.
Yeah.
You got to know how to leverage things. It wouldn't have worked if I didn't have all those other interviews lined up, but I had to bust my ass for those. I had to teach myself how to write press releases. I thought I knew how to do press releases for years until the Joe campaign. The Joe and Spike campaign last year kicked my ass, woke me up, and taught me what I needed. This year, I learned so much more about press releases about 3 months ago from an opportunity that opened up. And I was like, wow, I've never looked at press releases like this before. And I'm always learning. You keep looking and you experiment and you try different things, man. It's fun. I have fun with it. I'm glad you like that story. I was in a bad mood that morning, and I was fired up when I was angry when I was up there. I was yelling, and I think I hit the fucking table. But Yeah. Anyway, I'm glad you remembered that story. Though. That's a good one.
No, I love it because fucking lemons. No, I love it because it definitely is outside of what you would normally see, right? You got to find ways to leverage, and nobody wants bad publicity about them, especially if they know it's coming their way. And so if you guys are working with campaigns, if you guys are working on working with a candidate specifically, what are ways that you can leverage them to be able to get in the door, to be able to get on those debate stages? If not, with Brian's story, it was 30 minutes the day before. Could you do it 30 minutes the day after, where now he gets to do a response to those debate questions? What are ways that you can leverage your candidate that you've already, we've already met those thresholds of this person's a viable candidate. They're viable in the way that they're available, they're competent, they're going to wear a damn name tag, and everything else. How are you going to be able to get them out in public? Go ahead.
You want to know how I got us into the Tribune originally in 2014?
I would love to hear this.
I got in there. I mean, it's not a big, fantastic story. Just I got in the building through security for a different reason, to do something on a different TV show. And then when I was done doing a segment on that show, wandered around the building, found the office where the editors were, and I knocked on one and started talking to him. And I looked professional. I was dressed nice, and I clearly made my case. I didn't go in there and start telling them about the duopoly. No, I went in there and said, "Hey, I'm Brian Lambrecht, and I work with the Libertarian Party of Illinois. We'd have some candidates we'd like to bring over here. Would you please consider us and give us an opportunity? We won't let you down." Granted, we did let them down that year, but man, we kicked ass in 2016 and 2018. And Danny Maloff deserves credit, being the sole guy running in 2020. It was a presidential year, and the only candidate was Senate. It was him. He ran on his own, and it was a year of COVID. He couldn't do parades. He couldn't do festivals. He couldn't do anything, but he did a damn good job. So I want to make sure I give credit to Danny Maloff for his 2020 Senate run as well, because he did really well.
No, and yes, and you've touched on this a couple times, but I think it's really important that we highlight it, because we both seen those libertarians, right? We've seen them at conventions, we've seen them at events that just don't want to. They don't want to dress up, and I think that the perspective, the optics of what you're looking for in a candidate is somebody who's well composed externally and internally, right? You talked about having your life in order. I know some of the viewers may like Jordan Peterson, his idea of make your own damn bed, right? If you can't solve things in your own life, how are you going to solve other people's issues? And so we have to be able to use this. We have to be able to gauge and be able to the first thing you see on a candidate is the candidate itself. And so when you guys want to be serious about this, if you guys want to be serious about carrying the torch of liberty, we've seen the transformation of Spike, and I'm sure a lot of that came at the hands of Brian Scott Lambrecht going, "You need to stop showing them nipples." I did not mention Nipplegate.
Spike was on top of all of that. Spike is his own. All I do is check the calendar and make sure there's not double bookings, and yeah, no, Spike handles all of that. He knows what he's doing.
But we've seen this revolution within Spike and how he's conducting himself. And if you guys have not been long followers of Muddy Waters Media, we understand. But thank you guys for being here now. But if you guys go back 3 years ago, Spike was a whole different person. And so now we've seen that transformation. That's why Spike is looked at in a wholly different light. And so we all, as we see candidates out there, what can you do in order to bring that professionalism out in the way you're conducting yourself?
And he's at a point now where he does RT. It's Russian Times, but it's international television. The Rittenhouse trial gives us a verdict last week, and within 90 minutes, he's on international television giving his perspective, giving Spike Cohen's perspective, but also the libertarian perspective, an American libertarian perspective for the world. We can't get CNN or MSNBC or any other crap here in this country to give honest viewpoints, or at least original or new viewpoints. But international television, Spike's doing it, so he's really good at communicating.
And he's a frequent flyer, of course, over there on Fox News with Kennedy, and that's always amazing to see him just come out and metaphorically.
He'll be on tomorrow, by the way.
He'll be on tomorrow night. All right, perfect.
Also, for anybody in Baltimore, he'll be on the Tory Snow Show at 3:30 p.m. Out there in Baltimore. For anybody out in Maryland that can tune in.
Perfect. See, this is doubling up on helping your candidate continue to be exposed. This is another thing that you can learn, not from listening to Brian, but actually watching Brian in the way that he works. Always campaigning, always marketing. Make yourself professional, make yourself known, make yourself be seen, make yourself be heard. And as long as you're sending the right message, all of those things will help.
Since we're talking about marketing, I just want to promote something. Go to Eskimo Libertarian when you get a chance. At the top of the Eskimo Libertarian page, she is raising money right now to take care of, let me look it up. She's got a goal of $25,000 that she's trying to raise for this. And she just started this, so you can still make this happen if you guys want to be part of it. Because I've been wanting to promote this. If you don't mind me doing this, Jason, on the show, you don't mind.
No, absolutely. It's an amazing cause. Eskimo has been helping out young children, and I'm sure you've got the notes in front of you.
Look, Kids Cupboard, that's what it's called. It's a nonprofit organization in Alaska. Their mission is, quote, nothing less than realizing the full potential of Alaska's children by ending child hunger with sustainable grassroots, child-centered strategies and advocating for the widespread adoption throughout Alaska. She's trying to help fill their budget gap. It's about $25,000 that they're going to be short on this year. She's trying to bring that in, I think, before the end of the year. Guys, go to EskimoLibertarian.com, click on the link. I chipped in some money the other day. If you can chip in a few bucks, do it. Please help out with this if you can, guys.
And that right there is so incredibly important, and not just candidates needing your money, but the goodwill that we do. And Eskimo Libertarian, going by the name of Eskimo Libertarian, doing all this stuff, puts that libertarian perspective out there, that we're actually going to pick up the shovels, we're going to make a difference. And that's another important thing, is that when it comes to marketing the good deeds that we do, how can we spread that message of we're libertarians and we're doing this good thing? Because we've all seen the perspectives that we get from Republicans and Democrats. We're just Republicans who like weed, or we're just Democrats who like guns. But at the end of the day, we're the empathetic ones. We're the ones that are fighting for changes. And so when we can pick up those shovels ourselves, pick it up and let's make a difference together. So we went through the basics of the candidacy, right? We went through here's how to conduct yourself. I want to know, because you did mention it, what's important for a small local race or a state race, for what makes up your campaign team? What are the important things that you need to have this before you get the ball rolling?
Oh, for putting together a campaign team?
Yes.
Well, the most important person on the campaign team is your treasurer. Especially the higher office you're running, the closer they're going to watch you. They need to know what the laws are, because they change from state to state. It's a big pain in the ass. Or if you're running for a federal office, you got to follow federal law. Treasurer's the most important person. After that, it'd be nice to have a campaign manager, and then having people down the team. It depends on the size of your race. Everything is constructed differently. The team I've got with Spike right now is constructed so differently from the campaigns I had in 2018, 2017, 16, 15. The ones I worked on, and I worked on several in 2020. The Joe campaign was massive. Everything is so different. That's why it's hard to pick and choose. And not everybody has a lot of people they can pick from. Sometimes a campaign team is like 2 people. It's the candidate and maybe one other person, and they're working so hard. What I will say is, go through your campaign and find out what it is that you need, and write it out specifically. Write it out in a Word document. Make up a title for it, and have fat paragraphs describing what that is. And recruit people that can do that. I'll give you an example. I had a social media team in Illinois that was second to none. It was. We had 6 candidates, right? And you saw all six of the candidates up there. Most people think, oh, you're going to run social media, so you're going to make a bunch of fun memes. And it's like, people don't realize that that's the campaign. You can't just, I've seen people that will run a social media page for a candidate that are running for the campaign more than the candidate is, because they're coming up with all the platform ideas and creating all the artwork. So put that image back up again. I'll tell a little story while it's up there.
Yeah.
So you're looking at all 6 of these candidates. So the team that I had, for example, was this. Jenny Floyd would make sure that we had pictures and images of all of them on the Google Drive. We had a Google Drive. All the candidates were separate. There was a folder for all 6 of them, and then there were some that had multiple candidates, like when Claire and Cash were together, or Claire and Mike, or Sanj and Cash. So we always had combinations of them. And oh yeah, there you go. Yeah, now is that not a damn good professional photo?
It's beautiful.
I love that photo. Those are some sexy fucking libertarians that I want to vote for again and again. But bring back the other 6, because I'm gonna tell the story.
Yep.
So Jenny Floyd would make sure that we had the photos. She would take them herself, or she would gather them from other people who had taken them themselves, and she would gather them all up and make sure they were organized.
Uh-oh, Brian, we've lost you for a second. I've lost your audio. I've lost your video now. Oh no! Give us 1 second while we get Brian Scott there.
Yeah.
All right, I can hear you. Nope, we're good. We're good to go. It's blaming my internet. Yep.
Okay. No, because I live in Tennessee, and as much as I love it here in Tennessee, the one thing I hate is I feel like it's a damn Stone Age, because phone signals don't freaking work, and my internet sucks. So Jenny Floyd would make sure that there were images that were taken. She'd take pictures herself, or she would gather them from other people, and she would make sure they were on the Google Drive. Chase Renwick would go through all the interviews they did, whether it was in print, in news, or it was from podcasts and radio interviews. And when he was at work, he had a job where he could listen to things and transcribe, and he would write up and catch, or just copy and paste out of articles, the best one-liner quotes. Or if a candidate would say something and it was kind of sloppy, he would clean it up and make it nice and concise so it would fit into a meme. He would send all of those to Sierra Leanne Matthey. Sierra Matthey would then take them and pump them all into a meme. She'd take all the pictures we have, and then she'd take all the writing that we had, all the quotes that we would have, and there would be pre-made versions of the logos for each candidate. Each candidate had their own logo, and she would put them together and make different mishmashes of all of those memes. And then they would go back into the Google Drive, and then Jim Pradgett would grab them all, go to all the different pages, and schedule them to be released on a certain time. So you've got a conveyor of people. So it's not just falling on one person who has to creatively figure out how to run the campaign themselves online and be the image of the candidate. No, you had a bunch of people that were doing it, and it still is the quote and the flavor of the candidate. And not just the memes, but it would also be promoting events. So-and-so will be here. Claire Ball will be, at this coffee shop. Cash Jackson will be at this steakhouse. Steve Detner will be in this men's bathroom. Anywhere you want to find a candidate, they could make the memes, and then they could promote it, and we could put the material out there. So depending on the campaign you're running, you need to know what you need people for. I had a media team. That was the social media was part of the media. I had a PR team. I had 2 different people that did PR. I had Andy Gephardt and Amanda Parsons. Jason Spires helped me with some amazing stuff. You know what? Just on 2018 alone, Jason, you'll find this funny. I actually wrote up a list of people that I wanted to thank, and I turned on a live stream on Facebook. And I'm like, I'm going to do a 15 to 20 minute video just thanking everybody on this list one by one and thanking them for what they specifically did. You know how long the video lasted for?
I couldn't even guess.
An hour and 20 minutes. I had an hour and 20 minutes of thanking people because I could not. There was like 3 or 4 people on that list I fucking can't stand, but they did work, and I had to thank them for it because I was appreciative of the work they did, even if I don't like them. They still did really good work, and I was very grateful for them for pitching in and helping out with whatever work they did, even if they made my life hell in other areas. They did work, and I respected that, and I was grateful for them for doing it because they didn't have to. So that's the main thing with it. You go ahead.
So from that, this messed up. No, maybe it didn't. There we go. All right, we're good. So from that, when you make the team, of course, you have to fill your needs, but it's also, if you can find volunteers, if you can find people that are going to help out, figure out what their comparative advantage is, what can they do that's going to, set you closer to your goals, and what are they able to do, and what do they want to do. Fill all of those gaps is incredibly difficult to think about, like how you're going to plan it out, but I think that maybe you'll be able to help us out with this. A lot of the stuff people go, I can do this, and then they just jump in and do it, right? Or how do you get to that point?
You mean bringing in volunteers?
Yeah, because that's a big part of the campaign, right? That's one of the biggest lifters that any campaign can have, right? Because you have your core team that's going to be able to make a lot of decisions, right? You have your social media team for the national campaign, right? You've got your communications, you got your social media, you've got your press team, you've got your campaign management, you've got like all these different tiers and higher ups and lower downs and everything else. But then you have the actual volunteers who are not getting paid for this, but they're putting their hearts and souls into the campaign, and they're pretty darn important as well.
Most people on campaigns, especially ours, don't ever get paid for anything. The first time I ever really got paid, aside from petitioning jobs, which petitioning sucks, but was the Joe campaign last year. But I mean, I was working, I was getting paid for, an 8-hour day, 40-hour week. I was putting in a lot more than 40 hours a week. I'll tell you that. They got their money's worth out of me. Those were some hectic days and nights. In Illinois, one of the ways I was able to get so many volunteers is because I always volunteered for them. People would have parades in their hometown an hour and a half away. Some of them would even be 5-6 hours away in the southern part of the state. And I would call them up and say, hey, if I come down there with Claire, and maybe I'll bring Jenny or somebody else with, can you put us up for the night, and we'll help with the parade. We'll carry banners, or we'll do some neighborhood walking or whatever. Or we'll just stay in a hotel if we had some money or whatever. And most people were cool. Everybody's got spare bedrooms and couches you can stay with. And I did that for a few years. And because I would go and visit people where they were at, they were willing to then step up and help me. When I asked them, said, hey, I need people to get some material out in your area. Will you do this? Will you be willing to do that? And almost everybody that I asked was willing to help out in any way that they can. Some people, it's easier for some people than others. Some people have, kids, 2, 3, 4 kids, and that can be a pain. Their family situation, their job situation. You never know. I could actually talk about the people working working for Spike right now, and it's interesting, their stories of where everybody comes from. But they have the time, and they're willing to make the commitment, and they're just phenomenal. I want to give a plug to them in a little bit. But fuck it, I'll do it now. Myra Mateka is freaking awesome. Eskimo Libertarian Nalik Truck is just outstanding. I can't say enough good things about Sierra Leanne Matthew, holding up everything on the social media. And then Jenny Floyd has completely revolutionized all the video stuff on his YouTube page. You guys make everything possible. It's freaking awesome. I love this team right now.
Showing gratitude, I think that's a big part of keeping volunteers around.
Thank people for the fucking work they do. Holy shit. Isn't it, man? Buy them food, buy them pizza once in a while. But that's how I was able to recruit a lot of people in 2016 and 2018 for the big races, is I went and helped them out when they had people that ran in their local races. I still help them out because I consider them friends. Remember, I think I told a story about the one guy that won office for the park district, and then within a year and a half, they dissolved the park district.
I don't think you shared that one with me.
I told that story at the in South Carolina.
Okay.
When I went up on stage. For anybody who doesn't know, Aaron Wright.
Yes.
Aaron Wright ran for Park District in his area because it was really corrupt. There was a lot of land deals going on, and it was just becoming this slush fund for libertarians to sell off land and get their profits off it and dump it on the taxpayer dime. And basically, Aaron got in there, and all the other people were there like, wow, well, this is really corrupt, and we're all kind of on this board, and we don't know what to do. And Aaron says, well, we need to sell off the assets, get rid of the liability, pay down the liabilities, and dissolve the park district. And they were like, can we do that? Yes, we can. And it was gone in a year and a half. A libertarian got elected and dissolved an entire municipality. I love that shit. So when Aaron's running for, I think it was township, and says, I need people to come out and help me do some neighborhood walking. I got some printed material. And he's got a great spare bedroom in the basement. Of course I'm going to go up there. And he's 5 hours north of me here now in Tennessee. I'll go up there and give him a few hours on a weekend because he's worth it. It's wonderful. So hi, Brittany. Brittany is sending me messages, and I'm saying hi to her. She's watching me on the thing.
Yeah, watching you on the thing. That's cute. Hi, Brittany.
All the things, all the podcasts. I'm on all the podcasts. So.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. All right. So
but the point is, I've worked with Aaron over the years. He's helped me out. I've thrown money at him on small projects when I have it, and I can because he's worth it because he does video editing. But that's just one person out of dozens I could name. You have to pay attention to get attention. You have to help other people on their races, and they will help you on yours. Help them, even if it's just their chapter, if they're not running a race, if they're just staffing a booth at a it's amazing how many chapters will they'll fork over $200, $300, $400, $500, $600 to get a table at their county fair to get a booth. And then they can't find people to staff it. Everyone's like, I'm willing to help, but I'm willing to do things. And nobody will come out and staff a booth. Man, I would camp down at DuQuoin and stay at the DuQuoin State Fair in Illinois is an 11-day festival. Everybody would staff it for the first few days because they knew I was coming down there with a car or two full of people and candidates. We would camp on the fairgrounds, stay there for 3 or 4 days, sleeping on an air mattress for 4 nights, 5 days, whatever it was. It was a long weekend. And we'd staff that booth for several hours. I'll never forget one night. It was a Friday or Saturday night. Everybody in the fairgrounds, we had a corner booth outside and it was full of all these people. And we had a microphone with a PA system and Cash is going around. All right, who over here feels like they're paying too much taxes? And he's walking around with the microphone and he's holding it to people and interviewing people for like hours. There was a push-up contest that started with a bunch of kids and a bunch of other military guys, and they're all on the floor doing a push-up contest in front of the damn booth. Everyone's cheering and watching. Jason, I don't know how this shit happens, but it was a fucking blast.
I believe
We'd have
it.
dance parties out there. We'd play music and all the girls would come out and they would just dance. And that's always fun to watch because I like to watch girls dance. And people would come by. We'd pass out our material. A bunch of girls are dancing and, putting on a little show. And a couple of us have these creepy Gary Johnson masks that we're wearing. I'm talking to you, Preston. And we go out there and people would walk up, they hear the music, they want to see what's going on. And we have fun with what we do, but it's still work. You have to go there. You have to show up and stick around and do the work. And that's what people don't do, Jason. That's what a lot of libertarians don't do. It's like 90 of all the libertarians, 90% of the libertarians are keyboard warriors. The other 10% are the ones doing the work. And it's tough.
I don't even think it's up to 10%.
Maybe am I being generous?
You're being incredibly generous, and those that 2%, maybe 1%, they're incredibly amazing people. We've got of course, we've got Brian Scott Lambrecht orchestrating from the back end. We've got Spike Cohen out there in the front lines. We've got just a countless number of great libertarians picking up the shovels and making differences right now. Over 150 libertarians getting elected in the last couple weeks. These are people that came out there. Did they follow all of... Did they follow all the rules of Brian Scott Lambrecht? No, but I'm sure that they followed most of them.
Look, I don't know all the answers. All I know is I've made a lot of mistakes. I've learned from them. And some things that I know that work in some situations don't work in every. I'm not a guru. I'm not a master of anything. I'm just a guy that's done it a lot. I've been around. I don't want people to think that Brian knows everything.
No, you're definitely amazing at what you do. I've heard this, I've seen this, I've experienced this, but it's people like that. And so I'm hoping that from this conversation that people can listen to the words that you said, tie them all together, get good messages, because you've put out so much good stuff for these candidates who are running. How do you get seen? How do you get heard? How do you continue to portray yourself in a way that's going to reflect good on yourself, on the values, on our principles? Because that's the thing, right? Is that all too often when you have somebody running for governor and they go and they just make a damn fool of themselves for the Tribune, it doesn't just look bad on them because it's the libertarian candidate. It wasn't his name specifically. And so what can we do in order to help out our own candidates and everything else? Go ahead.
Because he's not around anymore and he doesn't matter. But we have to overcome that stigma.
Yes.
That was a huge fight. And I was lucky that Claire was, she's my wife, so I'm biased, but she's fucking awesome. And she did such a kick-ass job in that campaign. And then everybody else that was able to move in 2018 did wonderful. We built up those relationships. I've got so many other stories about relationships with journalists that are kind of funny when I tell about them, but they're good. They're people, and they're not all honest. there's a video from Oklahoma that I could show you and exactly how to be a dishonest journalist. This girl came out. She was nice. She was cute. She was just out of college, which probably explains why it was so corrupt and bad. But she had just 6 months out of college. It was her first job working for the Fox affiliate out there. And they made a video because there was a protest outside of the Capitol building Saturday. I believe it was that Saturday during the day. And it was to protest the death penalty in Oklahoma, because Oklahoma had brought the death penalty had been on hold for a while, and then they brought it back. They're having a protest. And the libertarians were the big group there. There was one or two other groups that was there representing individual people that were on death row at that point. And the news came out, and Spike was wearing a Natalie Bruno for Governor t-shirt. The girl didn't want to interview her, interviews one guy, full body shot. I think that the death penalty is wrong. They interview a young girl holding a sign. I don't think the government should be killing people. They interview Spike. They zoom in on his head so you can't see what's written on his shirt. They don't even mention his name. It doesn't even say Spike Cohen, much less that he was a vice presidential candidate for the Libertarians in 2020. And they don't say the Libertarians. They say groups of people. Groups of people were protesting. Just these groups came out of nowhere. They just rose from the ground and started protesting the death penalty. I mean, for fuck's sake, it's not easy to get through the media. I understand, guys, but there are good people out there, and you got to find them. You got to work with them, build up relationships with you, and then it makes it easier to hold them accountable. And if they actually like you, they will work with you.
Help them on their campaigns, and they'll help you back. Help them. We have that. And so, going back to the story of the debate stage, of the third night of debate, you basically said, look, I can either leverage against you or I can leverage for you. And so you said, I'm going to leverage against you and saying, look, when he goes and he talks on all these media platforms, we're going to say how abysmal you guys have been for us. You guys are keeping us off the debate stage, yada, yada, yada. And then you said, as soon as he was like, well, I can get you on 30 minutes the day before, you said, all right, now I'm going to leverage things in your favor. Now, when you call him back next, he knows that you have the capacity, that you have leverage, that you're not afraid. You're a legitimate in your role, in your capacity, and what you're doing. These are things that are going to just build your reputation, and by building your own reputation, when you carry that banner of Libertarian Party, Libertarian candidates, Libertarian philosophy, whatever it is, you're also building that as well. And so these are all incredibly important. I've taken you for quite a bit longer than what I was expecting to. I feel like I don't want to make you a celebritarian, but I want to have like an hour every day where I just have Scott Lambrecht.
You'll get very sick of me quick, I promise.
I
my wife.
I think your wife loves you immensely. But
I had a surprise for her downstairs, and I don't know what her thoughts were because she came home while I've been here, so I haven't heard from her yet.
How many lemons do you have on your cup now?
I ate a couple of them. I don't know. Why is it?
I love it.
What lemons? This is my Joe Jorgensen cup. Isn't it cool? I couldn't have done it without. It's made by Yeti.
Oh, I love it. I love you so much, Brian. But yes, let's. Any last minute thing that you want to share before we wrap things up?
To everybody who wants to run for office, talk to other people that have done it and listen to them. Don't blow them off. Don't act like they don't know anything. Don't be afraid to talk to local Republicans and Democrats if you get along with them, and talk to other libertarians. Don't just try to ask a libertarian to do things. There's a campaign I'm watching right now where like every month they've got the new libertarian, like every time I talk to them, the new libertarian of the week around the country is doing something on the campaign up until it isn't. You don't need that. Some of the best people that I worked with are libertarians you've never heard of. The people that I count on that do amazing work over the years that I've found are not celebritarians. They're not, this person's known for this in this state and that person for that. And I'm going to build, because here's the problem. Every libertarian has that idea. Every campaign has the idea of, I'm going to get all the libertarians. So now I'm working on 15 campaigns, which means you're half-assing and suck fucking 15 campaigns. You're not doing a good job. I got a guy writing press releases for me in one campaign, and that's all he does. One campaign, and he's damn good at it because he's worked in news radio for 4 years. He can write them in his sleep. He's fantastic. Everybody that I bring on board to work on something is a libertarian where I reach out and say, hey, I've got 2 pages here with some notes on it. There's like 7 paragraphs on them. Read these paragraphs and see if there's a job you want to do. And some person looks at it and says, well, I can do that. That's only going to take, what, an hour a week? And I'm like, yeah, but it's a really important hour and I need somebody to do that. If I were to go through all of the things that have to be done for Spike, your head would spin. And I had no idea it would be like this a year ago. You have no idea. Spike is just, it's such a massive undertaking. You'd never realize the kind of jobs that you need. Like earlier, I was talking about Jenny and Chase and Jim and Sierra all working on that streamline. I didn't plan it that way, but it came about that way because people wanted the help. They wanted to get involved. And I found out what they were willing to do. I wasn't overwhelming them. I wasn't overloading them with way too much work and putting the whole campaign on them. I said, hey, are you willing to do this one small thing? And what I like about all the people that I've worked with over the years is nobody anywhere else really knows who they are. And I like it because then I can always find them and count on them. And then they're there for me when I need something. And I take good care of them. I treat them well. I give them respect. And I can count on some really good people to do this work. So that's what I'm telling people. Find your friends and people that you trust that will do work. Don't just go online and start messaging all the popular libertarians and try to get them to run your Twitter account or whatever. That's not how you're going to win for office. That's not how you're going to win your race.
Yeah, beautiful. I love listening to you.
I'm not too negative here.
No, these are so whether it's viewed as negative or positive, these are important things that need to be heard. Right? We have to be positive for our people. We have to give them thank yous. We have to show gratification for people who are continuing to support you in your cause, whether that's working on a campaign, working for a specific candidate, working for multiple races, whatever it is that you're doing. When you have people, right, being that way. And sometimes you have to spin it negatively. You have been shitting on people and you're not helping them. So how can we make it manageable for them to be able to do things? It came together perfectly for me. I'm just word vomiting now. But I love you, Brian. I appreciate you so much for coming on tonight. I'm not going to make you a celebrarian. I'm just gonna be all giddy for the next hour from this conversation.
Forget about me. I'll go back into obscurity. I like obscurity. It's been wonderful this last year. I want to stay there.
Yeah,
but
I appreciate everything that you've been doing, and I could not be more grateful for everything that you're doing. Thank you so much for coming on tonight. I will see you here in a minute. I'm gonna go ahead and hop on over and wrap things up for everybody. I love you, and I'll talk to you in a second.
Take care, everyone.
All right. Oh my word, everybody. That was Brian Scott Lambrecht. I'm so happy, so ecstatic for that conversation. But Muddy Waters Media content is not over for the week. So of course, tomorrow night, if you guys are going to be back here, you're going to see Matt and Spike have a great time traversing the Muddy Waters of Freedom. Always excited to see them out there. I know you guys have been tuning into that and continue to do so. Wednesday night is My Fellow Americans with Spike. And then Thursday night will be Matt Wright with the Writer's Block. And Friday night, the only show that's not supposed to be at 8 p.m.-ish Eastern is the From Bayous to Igloos with Cajun and Eskimo Libertarian. That will be at 9:30 Eastern. So make sure you guys are tuning in for the rest of the week. I love you all, appreciate you all, and we'll see you guys back here. Not next week. Yes, next week. Next week we have, I believe it was Hannah Cox coming on to talk a little bit about the death penalty, which is amazing because we were just talking, that was mentioned, of course, with Spike Cohen going for Natalie Bruno, who came on to talk about Oklahoma and the death penalty in her state, talking about Julius Jones and everything else. So there's a previous episode talking about this, and now we're going to have Hannah Cox herself coming on. So it's going to be a good time. I love you guys all. Appreciate you guys. See you guys back here next week. And then the following week is the Zoom call. So make sure, if you guys haven't already, get a part of being a Mudsketeer so you can get on the Zoom call. Zoom call number 4, second Thursday of every month. Love you guys.